Hello guys, welcome back to another Gonk Gang video, and today I've got something special for you guys. This past weekend, me and the team went down to UK Games Expo to take part in the Star Wars Unlimited tournament there, and generally just go to Expo. This is my first time going to Expo, so it was very interesting because I've never been, and I'm kind of obviously into cards and miniatures, so it was a good weekend. But let's get into how I got on at the tournament. So for the Friday, I was running Boba Data Vault. So as you can see, this list is it's very indirect heavy. The idea actually came from this PQ that was held in Gotten. I'm not going to pronounce that. It was held in Germany anyway, and the player called Dan501 won the tournament. Um, And before going to Expo, I was already looking at maybe playing Boba Yellow. Didn't really fancy it. Wasn't too sure that it would do too well. And then a couple of days before, obviously, I spotted this list, and the list is not changed whatsoever. After practicing with the list a few days before, I think Dan hit the nail on the head pretty much with the list. There was a couple of changes that I did make to the list after Expo. I wasn't a fan of the bravado really. I didn't really put it in over the course of the weekend at Expo, so I switched that out for Cham Syndulla because there was matchups where I would ramp, my opponent would then Cham Syndulla or ramp themselves, and then ramp again, so they would get ahead of me. So then I would have to catch up again, and the only way to do that was by playing Cham, which obviously I didn't have at the weekend, but playing with it after Expo, it's probably a card that I would play in the deck. Apart from that, I don't think there's any cards that I don't see why they shouldn't be in there. I think IG 2000 was pretty good over the weekend. Some people are now putting this in the sideboard. I disagree. I think it's pretty good, especially with Vader Yellow still about. Force Choke might be one that was maybe not a main card. There was points in the game where you draw Force Choke and you just weren't going to use it because a lot of decks are vehicle heavy or just not needed. I think Grenade Strike was a great card. A lot of people were not expecting Grenade Strikes in the games that I was playing, especially when they were taking indirect damage on units, and they were like, "Oh, this like these units can't die," and then you just Grenade Strike and get a 2 for 1. Um, OOM series officer, maybe if I had to pick another card as well as the IG for potentially not being useful in the list, but again, a turn one that if they trade into 2 damage to base, 1 indirect, it's pretty good. Um, yeah, overall, I think the deck was really good. I really enjoyed it. There was some really fun games that I'll break down in just a second, and yeah, probably should explain for anyone who doesn't know the premise of the deck. The whole point of this deck is you want to ramp into bigger ships, obviously MC-30s, Ruthless Raiders, Devastators, Palpatine Maul, and obviously on the way to do that, you have a lot of indirect stuff that you can play. If you don't manage to get the ramp off, because obviously you don't see it because of Data Vault, you can just play the small package of let's just play small indirect units and do it that way. For example, there was I think 1 or 2 games where I just wasn't seeing the ramp because of the 10 extra cards. I won the game solely by playing Pride, TIE Bomber, Missile Platform, into Fed's Fire Spray, into putting Fett on the Fire Spray, and then just going from there, and then just playing planetary bombardments whenever I saw them. But yeah, anyway, let's get into the first matchup. So my first matchup of the day was a Sabine ECL, which was a deck that I was not exactly prepared to play against because a lot of people in general who were playing Sabine weren't playing it anymore. In a way, I'm one of them people. I played Sabine, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't know how this matchup was gonna go. The overall score for this matchup was 2 wins to me, so I did take the series. But it was a very interesting series because Boba likes doing indirect, and a lot of Sabine's units don't have the health to tank it. But Sabine also has the bigger units later on to deal and finish the game. I think the main cards in the Boba list that were great for this is I think Disabling Fangfighter in the main was just great. Darksaber was never going to be a threat because I always had Fangfighter. I also had um, I can't think of the card now. It's Force Choke that I mentioned. That wasn't really great. It was actually great in my first matchup, so maybe I'm lying because Sabine just never got to deploy and stick because Force Choke was there. And apart from that, that was pretty much that one. Yeah, it wasn't anything too special. It was kind of just play control Sabine, leader, and then spamming direct out. Sabine punching to 33 on Data Vault is a lot harder than people think. Um, yes, you can go fast, but trying to get to 33 HP without getting out aggroed backed by indirect and just straight damage was, yeah, it was pretty hard for the Sabine player. But shout out Nix, you were a great opponent, very friendly too. So yeah, thank you for that game. My second pairing of the day was Darth Vader Yellow. Now, sadly, this was a loss, and yeah, I don't know how to explain how this game went really. I have answers for Vader, to be honest, right? I have the Fang Fighter to get rid of Vader unit on the on anything he deploys. I have grenade strikes. I have open fires. I have IG-2000s, and just didn't see any of them. That's how exactly how this game went. Uh, Shout out to Cam, and also shout out to the Exeter crew because I know these guys play SWU and they also pay attention to our YouTube channel. So thank you for being a great opponent. And this guy played really well. He did qualify for top 16 on the Saturday, I believe, with this exact deck. So he played very well over the weekend. And yeah, Boba does have a good matchup into this. I think. I think with the amount of indirect that you put out, Vader simply can't just put it on units because they just become too fragile and you can't keep up with all the damage. Um, and I think in general, like I said, I have answers for this deck. I have multiple ways to kill stuff. I have open fire to kill Victor Leader. I personally have eager escort fighter in the sideboard to deal with this. Um, but yeah, I felt like I had a lot of answers for this deck, and I just didn't get anything in the game. He also played Sanction the Shuttle really well. He was capturing stuff that would increase. So I played Pride turn 1 in game 2, I think it was, and he played units, instantly sank the shuttle the Pride. So my indirect just wasn't there. He no good to me dead everything that he needed to, and yeah, overall I think Cam played really well, and there's not really I can fault him on. So this was my first loss of the day, which put me at 1-1 going into round 3. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. I do like the Dorian gunship. People have been saying that maybe Dorian gunship goes into indirect Boba. I have been thinking about it, but I personally would not like to replace MC30. I think MC30 is a lot better than Dorian gunship. But yeah, he also ran swoop down, which is pretty good. Swoop down was taking out a lot of key targets in the second game. Yeah, overall, well played, Cam, and I'll get revenge one day in the next meeting. But moving into my third round, I played Chewbacca Data Vault. Um, what can I say about this list? I really wasn't expecting to bump into a Chewie in round 3. I'm not gonna lie. Chewbacca is probably an annoying deck for most aggro leaders, and for Boba, it wasn't actually ideal. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, all of these units had big health pools to like stick indirect on. So any indirect I was doing, it solely just went onto his health. Um, he also had Jedi lightsaber to upgrade stuff. He had bits of restore in there. He had restore dark, Yoda, vigilance, Luke unit, home one, redemption. Like the Boba indirect does not like healing decks. I think healing decks just completely demolished the whole game plan of I'm gonna play units in direct and also aggro you because they're just healing everything up. I did take this series 2-0, however, so I'm not sure how I managed to do this. I think my ramp package, the ramp package of resupplied laser tech, and then putting Cham in. Not Cham, sorry. Yeah, just the laser tech and resupply in general. I think getting ahead of the curve before Luke come out was probably how I won this game or how I won the series. Um, yeah, Chewbacca just giving things Sentinel means I couldn't actually just swing with units at base, so I was literally just only doing the indirect. I was spending open fire in this series solely to kill Yoda. Fang Fighter was solely for Jedi lightsabers. Um, but there was also times when he also had big units with lightsaber and electro staff on. Um, yeah, this matchup was hard. I think Hero Blue healing decks in general do well into Boba. I think if you can heal the indirect and then also just stick the indirect damage on big units, there's nothing really for me to do. There's nothing crazy I can do. So yeah, I think the ramp into like my MC30s and Devastators was probably how I closed this game out. I remember the second game especially, I ramped into a Devastator and he had no answers, so he was taking the 5 indirect straight away, and then next turn I hit him for 9. So I was already pushing that damage, and then I think Planetary Bombardment was also on that same turn that I swung the Devastator in, so he was taking a lot of damage that he couldn't deal with. So yeah. But shout out to Ollie, by the way. Shout out to Ollie. Respect for bringing Chewbacca. Like it's interesting to see these decks still being played. Like Chewbacca's a deck that was actually playable and played in set one with I can't remember. It was Bomb and Run Chewie. I think the deck was called or evolved around, and I like to see it back in the mix, especially now that meta's very open in terms of what you can play. So yeah, shout out to Ollie, you're a great opponent. I hope your X-Wing tournament went well too, because I know you were playing X-Wing on the Saturday. But yeah, um, this was a 2-0 win, like I said. So going into round four, I believe now. Yeah, going into round four, I was 2 wins, 1 loss. My next opponent was Jack Hansen. So I actually know Jack. He's a friend of mine and a friend of the channel's who plays in Preston normally. So we don't actually get to play face to face a lot apart from big events. Um, and yeah, he was on Quinlan Tarkin Town. Now this matchup was a matchup that I was not too excited to play against, only because I know that the Quinlan is very good at just completely disrupting your hand. And if Boba's got nothing to play, you're quickly just running out of like ways to win the game. Because your whole plan is obviously play units from hand, do indirect, but if you're slowly having to discard cards out your hand and like try and just keep I don't know, it's very hard deck to get your head around, especially if you're just trying to play. Because there is points in games where Boba will just be playing top deck mode because you're playing that many units doing direct. You will just be playing, okay, I'm drawing 2, resource 1, play this, drawing 2, keep 2, play both. So there is turns where that happens. Uh, his deck was very good. The Kira, Ahsoka, Force Throw, Bamboozle, Spark, in the sideboard, the Chams. The Chams, the second game, kept them up, it kept them going too. Jam Communications is there. But I think the downside of this deck, obviously, is you only have 25 HP. So I did take the series 2-0, and I think the sole reason for that was the 25 HP Tarkin Town. Now, Tarkin Town is great with Quinlan, but Tarkin Town is not great when I have multiple ways to do the indirect damage as well as keep units on board because if you notice, a lot of his units are similar to the Sabines, where the early game cards only have 2 to 3 HP, which means me playing cards that have indirect damage and he puts them on the cards means I can generally probably kill them with IG or Boba or Planetary Bombardment, something like this. Um, but later on, if he gets like the Ahsoka, the Kira, Plo Koon, Falcon, Han Solo, it is a lot harder for me because you can just put the indirect on this. However, game one, I don't think he was ready to deal with how quick exactly Boba can go because I was ramp and throughout this whole day, my main game plan was to pretty much ramp to get to 5 resources as fast as possible, to then get MC30 out on that 5 resources, and then next turn instantly flip Boba into it, kill what I needed to kill, and then swing for 10. Because as soon as you get the 10 in, it becomes a panic station for my opponents because it's like I can't take another 10 because that's only 5 away for the ECL Tarkin Town players, or you'd be on 20 HP if you're playing 30s, and then you're only 13 HP away from getting a loss if you're on Data Vault. So the MC30 with Boba to swing for 10 is a nightmare. So I did do that game one. Um, I was aware that he could possibly bamboozle me, which I don't think he managed to do game one. I think I was safe game one, and then I just closed the game up from there. I think we're just indirecting an MC30 with Boba Pilot on. And then game two was game two was interesting because I knew a lot of people's sideboards would still have some sort of pilot removal because obviously you have Vader, you have, well, let's say pilot removal, just removal in general with upgrades. So I knew that like pilot Vader was being played, Sabine for Darksaber, Boba. Actually, I don't even think there was any that many Bobas to be honest at Expo, but just upgrade removal in general. So I knew he has some sort of upgrade removal probably coming from the sideboard, which if you can see on the list, he did have Fang Fighter. I did also think he put Jam Communications in to stop uh, some more um, some more events of mine being played. He did also put Cham in, so the Cham was a problem. Like I mentioned before, after the expo, I did switch out Bravado for Cham, solely because, not particularly Quinlan, but Dexter also played green. They would ramp with me, and then when I tried to ramp again, they would simply just play another ramp card. So for me to get ahead of that, I would play Cham and then their resupply, so then I'll be 2 resources ahead. So Cham is a really, really good card in this meta. So he did put that in his deck, and he kept up with the resources. And if I'm not wrong, me and Jack were super close on the second game. I remember Han Solo was out on board. Ahsoka Tano, I can't exactly remember what I discarded, but I'm pretty sure it was a card that was key to my game plan, but I couldn't take an exhaust on a unit because I needed to get the damage through. Second game started off with a X34 land speeder into my Death Trooper that I played, so Jack controlled the game a lot better in the second matchup. But yeah, like I said, I won this matchup 2-0. Yeah, this deck is just hard, I think, for Boba, but I think it's also really good for Boba, so I would say it's in the middle, simply because I think the 25 HP Tarkin Town is a lot easier to do with indirect, especially, like I said, these heroism units tend to have low HP pools at the beginning of the game, so you can just spam the indirect, but yeah, overall, Jack played well, it was a pleasure to play you, Jack, but yeah, I did win this matchup 2-0. So at this point, I'm now 3-1 going into round 5, and round 5 is actually very interesting because I got a teammate of mine from Gonk Gang, Mr. Jack Wright, and I knew what he was playing at the event because we discussed the obviously previously, and he was on Anakin Blue. So this deck is an absolute nightmare. Um, yeah, I knew Jack's already played this deck for a bit. He also won his store showdown at Tritex Games with this. He's been playing this deck for a little bit now, and he really enjoys it. Yeah, I know Anakin Blue can be a real pain for decks that want to go quick or decks that want to ramp. So as you can see, Jack actually runs the Cham in the main, so this was already a problem for me because me ramping basically meant he ramped with me, so there was no reason to really try and ramp. Or if I did find a way to ramp, it was purely because he didn't have resources to play the charm that turn. So if he played it next turn, didn't really matter because he had to spend the four. But yeah, this whole deck is just good. Anakin Blue is still one of the top decks, I think. The regional governor on turn one, name and stuff, basically didn't give me a way to play cards early. Obviously, the force throw is a nightmare because if I try and pilot Boba on MC30, you can force throw, choose himself, throw a Great Dragon at me. Boba pilot dies. Yeah, this deck is really good. So this series actually went 2-1 to me. So it was 2-1, and the last game, the third game, was very close. Between me and Jack, it literally came down to I had a fire spray, Fet's fire spray, on the board. He had a crate dragon, um, and the action went back to him. Uh, and I had cards in my hand, but I didn't have anything to get rid of the crate dragon on board. However, Jack did only have 4 HP left on his base, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was 3. And he had to claim because he can't. My Festify Spray was exhausted. He needs an answer for it. So obviously you have Takedown, Fell, Rivals Fall. This was the post sideboard, so another Fell, another Rivals Fall, Open Fire. He has answers for it. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, maybe I play something, but then the Crate Dragon damage would probably go to my base, and then if he did get an answer, I lose even faster than I would have. So, with full resources still available with this late in the game, obviously Jack playing 9 for the Great Dragon, so we're about 9, 10, maybe 11 resources in. I just passed. I played a 4 cost Fire Spray and passed, and just hope he didn't top deck anything, and I swing for game. And yeah, he didn't get anything, so I just won the Fire Spray in and won the game off that. The game was so close. The first game, Boba done his thing, got the indirect off, got the ramp off, and then went crazy from there. Second game, obviously Jack puts his sideboard stuff in with redemption, and the pillage especially was really good. He kept up, kept restoring. I had to open fire Yoda's. That was basically the story of the whole weekend. Yoda was on the board, have to open fire it because it's just annoying. Drawing cards with his X-wing, Red Squadron X-wing. Concord Dawns was stopping my space units, regional governor. But yeah, Jack played phenomenally. Respect to Jack. You know, he's a Gonk Gang player for a reason. But yeah, I did take the series 2-1. Like I said, I think Hero Blue for Boba, or just healing any decks that can just heal. Like, I mean, there's less heal in this than there was the Chewbacca, but you still have it. You still have Luke, you still have Yoda, you still have Restore Dark, and it just becomes a nightmare. Just you're doing damage, he's healing it off, and then he's got big units to stick the rest of the indirect on. So yeah, it's just a problem. But thanks for playing, Jack, and I hope you get revenge on me when we see each other again. But going into my sixth round, that now puts me at 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, 1 loss, if I'm not wrong. Yes, because it was 7 rounds. So going into my sixth round, was a very interesting deck. So this late in the tournament, you're getting players that are also the same score as you. Sorry, so you'll be getting the 4-1s, and I went against the Maul Data Vault. Now, I played against a player called Jonas Hill. Yeah, I have seen this player before. Last time I actually have played him before as well. Last time I played him, he was on Anakin Yellow, so this was a different deck than what I've played against him previously on. And looking at the deck, looking at the deck now, obviously I didn't have his list before the game, but it was it was just a solid deck. It's just one of them decks that wants to ramp. and just play big units. Kind of like Boba, but with Boba you have the indirect to do the extra. Um, but yeah, the list is pretty self-explanatory. You have your early small cost units, you have your ramp, you have your fallen lightsabers for Maul, Vader. I mean, if you really wanted to, stick it on a stormtrooper, why not, and play the game. But it's one of them green red ramp lists that likes going big. Um, I actually won this series 2-1. Uh, it was a very interesting game. Um, yeah, so the first game in this best of three, I actually lost because I wasn't actually sure what the mall was gonna do. Because a mall being placed this high, I wasn't just expecting it to be just a standard ramp list that goes big. I was expecting something crazy. Also, the traitorous in the main actually bullied me at one point because I'm pretty sure I played. I can't remember. I might have played the laser tech to be honest, and he might have just took the laser tech and rammed twice with it. I can't remember. But the first game was very painful. Yeah, and then yeah, I don't know. First game was hard. Second game though was the most ideal start I think a Boba could really get. So you play your turn one, you go into the next turn, you spend three to play a laser tech. He then killed the unit that would have pinged the indirect damage to kill the laser tech, uh, which was fine. He then plays Cobb which I am happy with. Cobb is a really good card for decks like this, but I'm happy to trade into it with laser tech. So next turn I traded to it with laser tech, which means I'm now on 5 resources. Um, and then I can't remember what actually happened. I just remember that I'm spending 5 resources. I played MC30, and then he played a card, and I do not remember what the card was. We're going into 6 resources. I then flipped Boba onto the MC30. I then done the 4 damage to whatever the card was on board, so there is nothing on board now. And then I think if I'm not wrong, he played something to deal damage, or I think he played Crumb. It was he might have played Crumb. And I swung 10 at base with the MC30 and Boba Pilot, and then I can't remember. He might have played a ramp, a resupply or something to try and catch up with me. And then I played Planetary Bombardment for him to take 22, and it went to base. So he took 22 damage in one turn, and from then it was pretty much game over because he's on 33, and taking 22 damage in one turn is very, very hard. He can't. I don't think he had an answer to get rid of anything the turn after. Next turn he deploys his maul. Not ideal because he's now behind, which means I'm now again another resource up, so uh, I can play another planetary bombardment. I can play another MC30. I'm 1 resource away from playing Palpatine and Devastator. I could play more this turn if I needed to. Yeah, the second game was very, very quick and one-sided, I would say. And then going into game three, I knew that game three was going to be hard. I knew that game three would come down to who gets the ramp off and who can go the fastest. And luckily for me, it went my direction. I know he did get Reinforcement Walker out in the third game, which was, again, this card is a problem for Boba because it has so much health. Indirect damage just gets put on it, and he also just heals on the when played and on attack. So it's not ideal for me. But I did take that series 2-1. I want to say respect for playing Maul because for Maul to get this high in the weekend was actually insane. I wasn't expected to play him Maul to be honest this late in the day. But yeah, thank you, Jonas, for the game. I hope to see you again. And I want to say congratulations to your teammate because I think he made top 16 on the Sunday, but I'm not sure. Um, so going into my last round, this would put me at 5-1. So in my last round, I played Darth Silk, aka Michael Silk, I want to say his name is. I apologize if I get that wrong. And he was on Vader Blue. So if you remember before, I lost to a Vader Yellow, and now I'm going against a Vader Blue. So automatically when I think blue, I think removal. So yeah, I knew there was going to be removal this game, but I wasn't expecting it to be such a grindy game for me, to be honest. Uh, I did take the series 2-0 against Mike, uh, but it was a very, very, very grindy 2-0. I just think the fact that you're still playing the Vader like small unit package, so he does damage, but also just a removal. He has power of the dark side, take down, rivals fall. He can OB on small units, and then the one most annoying card for Boba is Devastating Gunship. You have so many like early game cards that have 2 HP that he kills, and then if you play indirect, he just puts it on the gunship and then trades with whatever you want in space. Also play Malevolence. I really wasn't expecting Malevolence. He played it in game one and two. Obviously, game one it was a shock to me. Game two, not so much. But yeah, getting a Malevolence played against you was interesting. Uh, I wasn't. I don't know. I just wasn't expecting it to exploit. It's an exploit 4, restore 2, give an enemy -4 over the turn, and it's a 7/7 in space. And obviously, because you have so many one cost ties, you can just exploit this whenever you want. And there was points in the game where this was just trading with stuff, and I couldn't do anything. Again, another card I think that was really good in this deck was Entrenched, because I did get a Ruthless Raider with Boba Pilot on it after ramping, and then he just entrenched it. So now I have a Raider with Boba Pilot that's just entrenched in space that doesn't do anything. I can't swing, I can't overwhelm anything because he just didn't have anything, and yeah, that was a problem. Choose sides didn't come off, thankfully. I knew choose sides was going to probably be a problem, like looking back after the game when I seen this, because he could have easily just fair sword the tide and then took something crazy from me. But yeah, so game one was a grindy game, but I managed to get it off, and then game two. Yeah, his sideboard comes in. So you have Relentless, Super Laser Blast, No Glories, things like this, and it was just more removal. I did get that win as well, so like I said, it was a 2-0 overall, but this list was very grindy to go against. Like I said, I think Boba has an alright matchup, or a very good matchup even, into Vader Pilot, because obviously everything's low HP, so you can ping it, and you also have units like IG and stuff to IG 2000 to just ping all one costs, or you have OB to ping everything. But the blue version of Vader Yellow I wasn't expecting with all the removal. So if we look at the overall day, that would have put me at 6-1, which looking at the 6-1 record over the day, it actually put me in fifth place. So, for anyone that didn't know, at Expo there were 2 days. You played Friday and Saturday. The top 8 players from both days went on to the top 16 on the Sunday. So I was very lucky. Well, very lucky. I played well, but I was very lucky with making top 8. I would say. I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying lucky, but yeah, I was very pleased to be fifth place, which qualified me for Sunday. Um, Going into that Sunday, I wasn't expecting to play against anything crazy. So, if we look at the Sunday, you will see that I finished ninth place. So sadly, my first game I lost on my top 16, and I had the pleasure of playing Mr. Joshua Freeman Birch, who actually won the whole tournament. So maybe it wasn't too bad losing to the player that won it all. And Mr. Freeman Birch was on Kira. Now, Kira is a deck that I like to play against as Boba because I think I have multiple ways to kill Kira on flip, and I generally think that I can just do what Boba wants to do into the Kira. However, I'm playing against Mr. Freeman Birch, so the game's never going to be that easy. So out of the best of three that me and him played in our first round of top 16, I won game one, and then he won the next two, so we won 2-1. The game went pretty well, I would say. In game one, I managed to do what I needed to do and close her out, and then 2 and 3, it was just, yeah, I just didn't get what I needed to get. Game two, he no glories my laser tech, so he ramped twice against me. So that game was well far gone. And then game three was just dragged into the point where there was multiple cargo jugs on the board and Mauls and Vaders, and I just couldn't do anything. It was, yeah, he played very well, and yeah. So overall, I finished ninth place out of 272 players at a Games Expo, and I was very pleased with that. I want to say congratulations to Mr. Freeman for coming first, and yeah, overall, I think Boba Data Vault is pretty good. Like I said, I like this deck a lot. I really wanted to make the yellow version work. I think Boba Data Vault itself is probably the better version, just because you do get to ramp and play them in direct cards later on that you wouldn't normally get to if you weren't playing the ramp package. But like I said, there isn't many cards in this deck that you wouldn't take out slash swap for anything. Like I said, the only cards I actually have after Expo is Bravado for Cham, just so I can catch up with ramp decks that get ahead of me. Um, just a quick overview, I guess, for anyone that is probably interested on how this deck actually wants to work. I did explain it a little bit early, but I'll explain it again. Um, you have the laser tech and resupply to ramp. How what I was doing the whole Expo weekend, like I said, was ramping into MC30 to play Boba, and then hopefully have a planetary. If not, it's fine. But you swing for the 10 and then play hopefully a Raider or something along them lines, maybe another MC30 or just two 3 costs on 6, so droid missile platform and a Fang Fighter if you needed to, something like this. If you didn't get that ramp package off, like I said, you can play the smaller indirect package in this deck. So you play TIE Bomber, you play Missile Platform, Fetch Fire Spray, Stormtroopers, and just keep playing that until you get to a point where you are on 6, 7 resources, 8 resources to play Devastator and win that way. But like I said, all in all, this deck was great. I want to say thank you to OPE for running the event. Thank you for everyone who played at Games Expo. You were super cool opponents, and I will be going back next year, so thank you. I want to say also thanks to the Gonk Gang lads for cheering me on. I want to say thank you to all Liverpool lads that were cheering me on. Respect to everyone. You know, this was my first top 8 at a big event, or top 16, or top 8 and then top 16 at an event. So thanks for anyone that was cheering on for me. Before I go, I will say stay tuned because my teammate Martin White did also get top 16 with me on P at Red, and he then made top 4. So I will say stay tuned for that. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this type of content, like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget if you want to see any more stuff, just drop a comment, message. If you want to see this deck in action, please drop a comment. I would be more than happy to play some games and show you guys how it works. But yeah, thank you guys. Stay tuned for more.